Pardon me for interrupting.
So I'm gonna start recording and I'm gonna repeat that so that way everybody else can hear this as well. So today the topic, if you want to start recording as well, because I give you permission, and let me know when you're ready. So that way. Okay, awesome. So today the topic is level 2 energy, which is anger, which can be expressed outwardly or internally. My anger for me quite often shows up internally for myself, but sometimes it's externally. So what I just said is the way that anger shows up, or the way that anger starts off in the first place, it's guilt, shame, and worry. And what I said about worrying is that and I say this to some people actually. So when you worry a lot, I say that's a good thing. It's a really good thing, because that means when you're worrying about something, you are able to focus on it and bring a lot of energy to it. But instead of focusing on the negative things, now you can shift the focus to the positive things and worry about the positive things that can also potentially be scary. Like, for example, you're buying a new house. You're buying a new house for the first time, and you can worry about buying a new house. Not necessarily the bad things, but worry about how you're going to set up the house. How's everything going to look in the house? What color are you going to paint the house? How are you going to feel in the house? How excited are you going to be? How are you going to be able to manage your excitement in the house? But focusing and worrying about that kind of stuff, that's a good problem to have. That's a good worry to have.
I just want to thank you for that reframe of worry, because where I've been missing an opportunity, that was an opportunity to celebrate someone's mind. And I've been in the work I do and just like being around people, I'm so quick to jump to the conventional wisdom of, worry doesn't change the outcome of tomorrow, only takes away your energy from today. And like, no one wants to hear that. No one wants to hear that when they're worrying. That's not gonna like, oh, you're right. I guess I'll stop worrying then. It doesn't work like that. So I want to thank you for that, because now before I go directly to that, I can celebrate them and be like, wow, look at how much space in your brain you have to worry. That's amazing.
Power, it's a superpower. And women, mothers especially, are really, really good at worrying. Mothers worry about their children all the time. And instead of worrying about their children in a negative way, shift it to, oh my God, what are they going to pick for their future to do? Because there's so many options, right?
That's actually, again, just something individual and collective. Like I thought of something within my own experience where I switched my brain, and I think that mothers can do the same when they think about their kids. So the experience that I had was, I was explaining something to my mom about our family patterns, and I thought that it was like, when I talk about patterns, because they're my passion, I think everyone wants to know them. And sometimes I forget about how difficult, if you're not ready to internally go through that uncovering process, how difficult it can be to have it like in your face. And so we were cooking together, and I was explaining these patterns in our family between men and women, and I thought, here I was presenting this awesome like gift, and she was gonna be like, oh, this is amazing, like now we can stop these patterns and everything's, so, but that I looked up at her face, and she looked like she was in pain, and it looked like it was excruciating for her to listen, and she was like, can you just stop? I need a break. And previous versions of myself, the worrier, the like, I've done something wrong, I've upset this person, something must be wrong with me, would have gone down a spiral of self-doubt. And so I did have a brief internal moment of, oh God, like rejection. And then I used that, I recognized that, and then used it to instead say, let's change the story. what does this actually mean? Let's change this from fear to love. The fear is I'm being rejected. The love is the thought that I had was how deep, if this is excruciating for her and I'm just scratching the surface, how deep do I go? And when I had that thought, how deep do I go? I had all this self-love and self-respect and curiosity about myself. So I just offer that as a way that we could perceive children, perceive anyone. And instead of, I'm so worried about them, I can't control what they do, I can't control the world around them, is when that comes, instead have a similar kind of switch. Like how might their journey unfold? Like what opportunities await for them? Like how is their wisdom going to reveal itself in any given situation that they're presented with? Just start thinking the same way we think we can perceive an opportunity to meet any kind of resistance for ourselves with love. We can do that as we think about the people we love, the people we worry about, and realize worrying about them doesn't make their lives any easier. In fact, it makes it harder because they can feel the attachment. And when we feel the attachment, so like when I feel in previous decisions where I deviated from my authentic path, a large part of it was because I could feel my parents' attachment to my journey and I just wanted to make them proud and make them happy. And that came from a place from their end of worry for their child, that their child, they worry that their creative children will end up destitute because they don't see the world I see. So it comes from a place of worry. Whereas if they could see the world that I could see and they could see their children's, creative children's true potential, they might have a very different internal dialogue. And then the attachment to their children's story, well, maybe there wouldn't be attachment at all. Maybe it'd just be trust. And their children will feel empowered to make authentic decisions, align with their soul path without having to worry, my mom's going to worry about me if I do XYZ. And we won't have to worry because we are having these conversations. So we know that just as we have all the tools we need within any given moment, and we've always have, we can trust that our children, we've raised them well enough. I don't have kids, but I feel like collective global mom, but that we've raised them well enough that when they're faced with any kind of conflict or situation that might harm them, that they've got the tools within to navigate from a place of maturity and resilience. So,
Yeah. At this point, this thought came to mind because some people that are watching, they might have a lot more questions.
mm-hmm.
So if anyone at any point has any questions, feel free to ask them. Because if you don't ask, you're not going to get the answer. And ask in the comments or whatever platform you're watching it from below for everyone's benefit, so everyone can learn from it. So we can start off with, you said this, and then ask a question. So kind of to refresh our memory, because we do these every week and we can forget what we talked about and all that kind of stuff. But with kids, there's definitely a lot of worries. And I honestly have been working a lot on shifting my focus. And if I'm worrying about my kids, I'm worrying about the positive, the good side of them and their future. And I don't want to say ignoring all the things that some other people might think is bad. Like, I'll give you a perfect example, okay? So a lot of parents right now have kids at home because there is no other choice. They're at home up until September or August in the States. I think that's when the school starts, or maybe even later. Who knows? So the kids are spending a lot of time on devices, on technology. A lot of parents might find themselves in level 1, feeling the victim, and I can't do anything, I can't fix it, my children don't listen to me, they don't want to do what I tell them to do. Or level 2, get off that device, don't do it, you're grounded, you're not going to play. And I mean, neither one of those two are really making us feel good as parents. And for the children, it does not help them because it creates patterns in them. So when they have their own children, based on their experiences, based on their learning, because they're learning from us and how we react in stressful situations. If we don't show them how to do it, or we show them the wrong way to do it, this is how they're going to be raising their own children. So if you are wanting to break a pattern, like I am, it's time to stop it and catch ourselves in those moments and figure out what is a better approach to the situation. Because looking at it this way, video games, they're not going anywhere. Technology is not going anywhere. They're going to be using it. You can help them to make better choices without going to level 1 or level 2. Use level 3 and rationalize. Help them to approach a situation from a level 3. I will rationalize it so they can rationalize through what they're doing and make better choices. They make the choice, not you, because you don't own them. I don't own my kids. I just gave birth to them. They're their own individuals. They're not like me. They're not like my husband. They're their own being. So allow them to be the way they make their own choices of how they want to spend their time. But I, at the same time, help them to make different choices of, okay, well, we can go for a walk. You can help me cook. You will be helping me clean on Friday because it's one of the things that is beneficial. So at that point, they don't have choice because Friday is already our day for cleaning. So they know that, but they have the whole entire day to do what they want. And then in the afternoon and the evening, we clean, right? So there still needs to be some balance.
They do have the choice to receive the cleaning. Like, it's a ritual. So they could perceive it as this is part of our ritual and it's sacred.
Yes, but at the same time, I can also give them choices. So what I started doing is, okay, one Friday, my youngest will pick the songs that we're going to be listening to as we clean. He's in charge. He's a DJ for the day. The following Friday, my daughter's a DJ.
That's brilliant.
So give them something that they can enjoy. Otherwise, like I'd be listening to my own music. And at this time, I can put myself on hold and I can listen to my music at my own time and they can do it. So there are ways around it.
It's brilliant.
So the worry comes down to the video games and they're playing video games all the time and being on technology. I think of it this way. What skills are they practicing? What are they learning by doing all of this technology stuff? What could possible future come out from them using the devices the way that they choose to? Because they don't use it the same way. And the choices are honestly unfreaking limited.
So Twitch, like they could make millions on Twitch. Do they talk to their friends and stuff and play like virtually? Okay, so
honestly, friends.
Honestly, if it weren't for that, like I wasn't young enough for that like introduction of like virtual gameplay.
Me too.
But I can imagine that it teaches all sorts of like intimacy. So here's how I see it. Like I see it gives the mind a break. It's kind of like the relationship that we have in ceremony. It's like its own sacred container. And then as the mind is just like in the flow. It's like when they're good at it, they activate flow state. So there's like in the flow of the video game. And as they're talking to each other, they're developing intimacy and their little tribe. Like, and yeah, it's based on a video game, but some just overhearing, like I've overheard some like deep
hand-eye coordination as well.
Yeah.
When I play video games, like the way my son plays, he's 7. I can't. Like I go in panic and I get anxiety and I can't. My husband plays video games and it's just like jumping or the thing falls down. I'm like, it's not for the faint of heart. And he's practicing. He watches YouTube channels that are playing games. He's games. He's like, oh my God, look at that headshot. I mean, it's a game and he knows that. He's not like, I know some people, oh my God, he's gonna go and get a gun and go to school and start shooting things up. No, it doesn't happen like that. right? There's a lot more to it than that. A person goes through a certain life experiences in order to come to that point. A child understands the difference between real life and a game. Believe
And
it or
if that's the concern, like, look, kids are gonna play games. If that's the concern, let's design different games. You know, like let's design games where they're tasked with rebuilding the world or something, like where they're using design, but that's just as fun. But like, it's not. These are what the designers are coming out with, so the kids are gonna play them. Adults play. Everybody plays them.
not. Mhm.
Everybody plays video. Like, well, I mean, not everybody, but a lot of people, adults and children, play video games, and a lot of people watch people playing video games. It's a whole industry, obviously, and I think that there's, like, from my what I've witnessed and watching and like witnessing my gamer friends, it's an entire community, and it's tight knit. They watch out for each other, and it seems like a great, like, I would love to be a part of that community if I had the interest in playing video games, which I don't. But I like have Zoom's not that much different. I'm on Zoom all day every day. That's like my video game.
There you go. Spiritual connection. It's they're practicing their spirituality in their own way. We're
Yeah.
all spiritual beings and we find different ways to express it. What a doctor does is spiritual because not everyone can do that.
Mhm.
And for gamers, there's even expos or events they can go to, which are actually making, what was it, $30 billion a year. So they make more than any than sports industry, than the Olympics. Like, what does that say?
Mhm.
He can easily go in one of those tournaments one day because he might be a master of whatever games he plays.
And it just seems like an evolutionary inevitability that will be called to balance that world, the virtual world, with our natural world. And people who've been playing video games will probably have, like, they're probably going to be teaching us about that world, and the witches will be teaching people about herbs. Like, we're all developing different skills. And so I support your kids and their video games, because I also know their mother and know how entrepreneurial minded are, help, and you are to all the various possibilities of income streams. And I see their confidence when they come. Like, I see Mila's confidence when she comes on the computer screen, and like that, she's ready to host her own YouTube channel. And so I think a lot of it depends on like, they see you, and they see you doing your thing. And so I think it also depends a lot on what they're seeing.
Yeah,
And so, which is why having parents home at this time is such a great opportunity to be like, look, like, you're passionate about video games. How can we turn this into an opportunity, uh, and just give them the confidence
yeah.
to, like, to not feel shame. When I think about all the things, like, it always felt like when we played video games as a kid, I always felt like not doing enough, not doing enough. Any minute, mom's gonna come home and yell at us, and I'll like grab a book and pretend to be doing something. And if we could just, like, eliminate that shame and guilt.
Exactly. And then that not only were your parents experiencing level one and level two, you were as well because you were learning and picking up on those patterns. And instead, like what you said is like basically what I heard you say is give them other options of what they can do and allow them to uncover different opportunities in that. This is what I've done with my daughter. She used to watch these videos on YouTube. It's called Gacha Life. So it basically a song plays and two characters are talking with like through bubbles. So she was practicing reading, story, listening, and telling the story. And I told her, like I asked her, like, do you like watching me? So how would you feel about making them yourself? Long story short, that's what she does now. She creates those videos and she puts them on her own YouTube channel.
Yes.
10 years old. And I didn't sit there and hold her hand doing it because you want to do it. You figure out how to do it all on your own because the power is in yourself. It's in your core.
This is, I meant to bring this up earlier. Another important pattern that could develop with, so when you are empowering your kids to do for themselves, to me this sounds like level 5 leadership. You see the true human resource in your children, which is rare.
Mm-hmm.
Because when we're perceiving through level 4, the concern for others, we're judging someone else's journey as needing help or needing our help, needing to be fixed by us. And in cases that the case, like we need that level 4 compassion where people really can't help themselves. And or when people need like legitimately need sympathy. Like I may have told a story before about once when I ate an edible, and edibles like just like send me to level 7, expand me to level 7, and I struggled to come back. And a friend called me when I was at that place, like super like edible peaking, and I was just like seeing like the universe. It was just a set of patterns and zero. I had zero emotions available, just like objective, completely objective, non-judgmental thinking. And he called me and told me that his uncle died, and I'm sitting there like in my like temple in the mountains under the sun, and I'm thinking, well, death is an illusion and so is life. And like just like anything that I could have said, if I had spoken immediately, it would not have been helpful. If I had spoken from level 7 to someone at level 1 grief and had been like, your uncle didn't die, like nothing ever really dies, that would not have been helpful. So I had, so which is why, we say over and over, no energy level is good or bad or right or wrong. There's no judgment on any of them. They all exist for different purposes. We've just been using a lot of level 1 and 2 when it's not necessary. And then sometimes sometimes we use a lot of level 4 when it's not necessary. So in this case, it was. In the case that I'm explaining, it was necessary. I had to have an internal dialogue before I opened my mouth. And I was like, girl, you need to get to level 4 and show sympathy for your friend who is in pain. And I was able to say, I am so sorry, with enough authenticity that I felt okay about my conversation. But where level 4 can be inappropriate is when we're doing so much for others that we neglect ourselves, and we also deprive them of the journey of learning and doing for themselves. So we get ourselves in that one of those like you teach a man or give a man a fish, he eats for a day. Teach a man a fish, he eats his whole life. When we are not expanding beyond, when we're just exercising level 4, we're just giving the man the fish, and so we have to show up every day with the fish again, and that leads to stagnation. So when we teach the man how to fish, which is what you're doing with your kids, they're able to then take that tool and run with it, and then grow and grow and grow, and then you're able, with that level 5 energy, to focus on your goals and your ambitions and your dream that from your heart serves the greater good. Mm-hmm. So that level 4, because level 4 can turn into codependent patterns. If like I've seen with my mother and my brother, my mom and her son, from the time I can remember, she wanted to do everything for him. Like, he's a sweet, gentle soul, and I think that I honestly have a lot of theories about their relationship, but I think a lot of what resulted in his mental health was to fulfill my mom's need to be needed.
Yeah, I believe that. It's very possible. Definitely, because if you, as the child, might feel like it reminded me. There was an episode in Simpsons. Was it Simpsons? No, 70s Show. Episode on 70s Show when her son was being big and she was all upset in her room. She was crying because my baby's growing up because he had just had sex. So she was like, oh my God, now my baby is gonna leave me. So she's so upset. So he comes in the room and pretends like he's upset, pretends like he needs her, that he can't live without his mom.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
And then she's like, no, you're just pretending, you're just faking. He goes, listen, my dad is always going to be basically telling me I'm stupid. So I need you to help me with that. She goes, oh, yeah, that's very true. You definitely need me. Okay, I'm good.
Yeah.
In a way,
Yeah.
that's kind of like in order to get someone else out of that place, we find how we can help them. And if it means that we create or start to feel depressed in order for them to give them a job to do, then we will do that.
Exactly. Because we're not equipped. None of us are really emotionally equipped to be like, look, you need to detach from me needing you a bit, and it's really holding me back. Because why would we, if we are receiving all this level 4 energy, and from mom, if mom's taking care of us and taking care of us, and and so that part of our brain that's like, you need to pick after yourself, you need to do for yourself, you need to intuit the needs of others and you can be of service to others, that part of the brain is starts atrophying. So the part of the brain that's like, people feel sorry for me and do things for me, that starts growing.
Yeah.
And so that's where, and we, so it's hard to get to the place where we can see ourselves like, well, I don't want that. I don't want someone else's need to be needed to turn me into, to bring out apathy in me, and make me um less self-sufficient than I need to be. We don't really have that awareness unless we start working with the coaches. Like I needed to work on my level 1 energy because of this exact, like, the reason I can speak about this is because little things like my mom booking my doctor's appointments for me. That was something that was just like, I loved it. Like, why would I ever why would I ever make do for myself if I have a mom doing that for me? And it wasn't until I started working with a coach that I started recognizing all the moments in my life when letting someone else do for me was inhibiting my growth,
Yeah.
and also creating that codependent, like, it was like I knew that I didn't need them, but I knew they needed me to need them. And so it creates that codependent cycle. It's like, it's the uh, one of the biggest leaps to break through that cycle.
And now, question with that one. This is all for you. You got yogurt on your nose, sweetie. He's like yogurt across the nose. And he's smirking at me because he heard me. So, a question with that one. With your mom doing these things for you, a couple of things or a lot or whatever she was doing, did you feel like you owned yourself and owned your life?
Um, at the time, I don't know that I no. Anytime that I don't think I thought about it, and I never really thought about it. I think I was just on autopilot and was like, this is just how things are. But looking back, no, I didn't feel, I mean, because I had no real autonomy that I knew of, or I mean, we always do, we always have it, but at the time, I didn't feel like I had a choice in anything I had gotten myself involved in, whether it was my lease, my apartment in Boston, or my job. And, um, And so really in all areas of my life, I could hold up I could paint a pretty picture that I was a baller and like living it up, like I was going to all the live shows and like drinking a ton and was a total party animal. And so on the surface, it seemed like I was owning my life. But every morning I would wake up with the panic and anxiety of debt and concern for what people thought of me, concern for the decisions I made the night before, and like concern if I missed an email or just like all these different, like every morning just waking up with different anxieties and different stories already going. And so that was all the same time of just like letting people like my mom do for me where I historically would feign exasperation, because in the other areas of my life, for example with work, at work I was straight level 4. So that was the area in my life where I was accommodating the rich white men. And even though my intellect and wisdom and emotional intelligence and leadership skills far exceeded that of the designated leaders around me, I was still the one offering to stand in the binding room for 3 hours, binding all the reports, doing the faxes, doing the photocopying, and really not using much of my brain or skills other than my administrative skills. And that was something that I knew I was great at, those administrative skills. So overusing them from a place of level 4, like, let me take care of that, I'll take care of that for you. Um, and then what that led to in the people around me, once in a while I would see my boss go into the copy room like he was actually going to send a fax. I would hear him try for 3 seconds, get frustrated, and yell. And then I'd go in there and be like, oh, want me to do that for you? Instead of teaching, oh, this is an opportunity. You just had a stress reaction to something that's not very stressful. And in fact, uh, it's very like white male privilege thing to get stressed about not being able to use technology immediately and to send your commercial real estate deal. So it could have been an opportunity to say your reaction to technology not working immediately is inhibiting your capacity to learn and your capacity for growth mindset. And my pattern to like, let me do that for you, was inhibiting my own capacity for growth mindset, because I didn't give myself that opportunity to be like, what patterns can we change around here? Until it all came out later in level 2. Like by the end, I use a lot of level 1 personally, like all those patterns that I'm pointing out and recognizing. I processed them internally through my own level 1 stages of solitude and isolation. And so I kept repeating those patterns of level 4, I'll do, level 1, isolation, solitude, call mom crying so she could use her level 4. And so it was this pattern until it got to the point where a lot of that level 1 shifted into level 2, and then kind of just raged and told off a lot of people and quit my job and um, wanted to burn the place to the ground. And that was just a natural progression for me to shift all that level 1 in all those areas of my life to level 2, and then also to see where I've been level 4 and where the other people in my life have been level 4 and where those patterns have just been inhibiting all of us from growing.
And level 2 sound like it really served you at that point.
Oh, I mean, I'm I wouldn't have traded it for anything. It felt great. And all along, I knew the things that I was revealing to people was truth. And they were not nowhere near, like, people acted shocked when my level 2 came out. And I just knew there was nowhere near the levels of level 2 energy that I've been walking around absorbing from everyone else my whole life. Like the harmful, like, you know, being called a brat and being silenced from the time I was born. So being called names from the time I was born, being yelled at from the time I was born for nothing, having men raising their voices around me from the time I was born, and me think that was normal. So there was no way that the level of 2 energy that came out in the wake of everything that we were facing as a collective, because I was realizing where I'd been silent and stifled in level 1 in the face of injustice, and that was no longer okay. And I think a lot of people are experiencing that now.
Yeah.
And for me, it had a lot to do with women in the workplace. A lot of my level 2, like, I would learn about it, then I would make recommendations for change, and then change wouldn't occur, and the same cycles would repeat. And that's what finally, like, because I was, what's up, Ethan?
Got a new haircut,
No.
like daddy, because daddy
What are you
said,
playing?
what are you gonna play?
No, I'm not gonna play because I'm eating right now.
Oh, you're eating right now?
Yeah.
So you're gonna watch something?
Yeah.
Yeah. Say hi, Rachel.
Hi, Rachel.
Hi.
His voice changes when he when he talks sometimes. So
Yeah.
adorable, isn't it?
Yeah.
Okay, here, you're free to go now. Careful. Okay, go sweetie.
And do you know if the thing was on my nose?
Yogurt.
No ice cream.
Oh, you had ice cream.
Ooh, ice cream in the morning? That sounds great.
So sneaky.
That sounds like the virus dream, quarantine dream.
Oh yeah, but I don't buy it often because he will eat it by the tubs. But when we do, he eats it by the tubs.
Yeah.
Ice cream
Ice cream and something.
on a cracker, on a Ritz. It's 2 Ritz crackers with cheese in the middle, with vanilla ice
Ice
cream.
cream? Wow.
Snack time. So
The best of all worlds. I can dig it.
I mean, he's not gonna eat like this for the rest of his life, but let him enjoy it. Let him eat it once in a while.
One day it's not gonna take. One day those flavors won't go together. So
Because control comes from level
Oh,
2 as
it's
well.
on
Oh,
hand.
thanks. Just farted on my hand.
I like how that gets it off. That gets the part off. Oh, I gotta think.
Did I tell you the time where he came to me wanted to smell his hand? He goes, "Mommy, smell." So I smelled it. And he goes, "You smell that?" I'm like, "Yeah." He goes, "That was my fart." Oh my God. But
Thanks for this for children for reminding me of how funny farts always are.
that's the thing. Like we always have fun at home when it comes to farts and all that kind of stuff. And I don't like to shame or guilt them because that will create patterns. Like you were talking about patterns that since childhood of what you experienced, the guilt, the shame, the all the different ways of how you are failing. And I mean, that's horrible to be growing up that way. But then if you had children, if you didn't heal yourself, you would repeat those patterns as well because you would not know any other way. And I started because when I started my journey, and my journey really truly started to go like really deep, because I was going deep. But when I really started going like deep is when I started working with you, with the coach. And with the coach, this is where, as an individual, we're able to bring real problems and help and get the coach to help us understand what is going on without the coach telling you what they think is going on. They ask you what you think because we don't know. We didn't live your life. I didn't live your life. I lived my own life. So I can only speak from my experiences, which might not apply to your life at all.
Right.
So in me working on myself, getting to a certain point, and then I know I needed more, I knew I couldn't think of anyone else but you, because there was that connection and there was that conversation we've had, and you knew me, you got me, you understood me, and I knew you and I got you and I understood you. So there was that spiritual connection in a way. And this is the best relationship that anyone can ever have with their coach, is that deep connection. And if anyone that's listening or watching to this feels that with either one of us, or maybe there's somebody else in your life that is a coach, highly encourage you to reach out to them and start that conversation, start the process of hiring them
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
paying them in whatever way you're able to, and that they would accept. Because that is when I really started truly deeply working on myself and recognizing my patterns, because you were able to help me uncover them, which I've done on my own, but this was at a much deeper level, because this is an outside person outside of my head that's asking me questions to get me my wheel to spin in a different direction, because I'm spinning it one way because I'm thinking one way, but a coach helps you to spin it a little bit differently. And I've noticed with my clients, with my peers clients as well, is they've always said I'm very intuitive, and I would ask a question and the response right away would be like, well, that's a really good question. And then they can take up to like 5 minutes to really think about the answer, and like thinking like, that's really good. And I'm not really sure how to answer. And they're thinking and thinking, and whatever comes out to them, it always comes out to be a very profound um, response and awareness. And in having done that with you, I have realized my patterns that I did not like, and was able to choose new ones.
That's what it's all about. And the coach is the safe space to see those patterns, because coach, like, I think they're here and now, exactly where you're meant to be. So whatever patterns you're uncovering, like, I'm not, the coach is not judging them. We're loving them, because it's human and it's you and it makes you who you are. And if you depending on the coach you work with, like the way we're trained, we we're trained in how to unconditionally love each and every one of our clients, and that
Level, level 7, as I like to refer. My
is
sessions, my end, I'm always at level 6 and level 7. And because I bring that energy to a session, it transfers
mm-hmm.
in a way. So without me trying to affect my client, they are allowing themselves to move up a little bit or a level or a lot, and they're able to see different things from that. It's like level 6 and level 7, to me, it's almost like a bird flying up above and looking at everything and how they see.
Yo, there, I love that this like bird symbolism's coming up so strong lately. And yesterday Chris was giving me a ride back home to Connecticut, and we were listening to an Aubrey Marcus podcast, and he had one of my favorite musicians, Trevor Hall, on, and he asked Trevor Hall about the significance of the bird, and that's exactly what Trevor Hall said, is like the bird's like the witness, like, which is basically goes back to Ram Dass, like Ram Dass drilling loving awareness into my psyche. And when Ram Dass talks about loving awareness, he like brings up the imagery of, when you're looking at the sky for long enough, the sky, like you see the sky, you're aware that the sky is looking at over all of us. And when you look at that enough, that your perception of it becomes kind of like a mirror. And then your awareness can be that of the sky or that of the bird, the objective, loving, like loving witness, especially in Mother Nature. When you tap into Mother Nature like that and really feel like, oh, it really is all love, and like all of creation is looking at us through the lens of love, and we're the only ones who seem to not realize it.
I like
I'm stoked that you brought up that bird imagery, because the that's just been coming through so strong lately. The
And
synchronicity, like just gotta recognize the synchronicity.
I like the sky imagery that you brought with the clouds, because it's interesting how you said that. One of my not so this Friday meditation and the because I spend Friday in meditation. So last Friday, when I was spending my time in meditation, I was on my balcony. And when I was in the balcony, I even shared the images on my Instagram stories, I believe. So I was just taking it, like looking at the clouds, looking at the sky, and the thoughts that came to me. I was just like, literally, I was in meditation. All of a sudden, I felt like I need to open my eyes and just look up, and I did. And there's different clouds, different sizes, different shapes, different colors, and I was stuck looking at this dark cloud, thinking that, think of it like this way, that our mind is like the clouds. It moves and moves, and we sometimes have dark clouds that create rain. It started raining shortly after. I'm like, oh my god, I manifested rain, so I don't have to water the grass. um, Kind of like thinking about that, but looking at the clouds as the mind, like everything moves and the clouds pass, everything passes, the storm always passes, and the sun comes out from the clouds and it shines really bright, and we have those good incredible days. And even though we forget that the sun is not, the sun is not there, we feel like it might not exist, it is always there, it is always shining. And our heart is the sun. When we feel that wholeness, that completeness, that full like joy and love within ourselves, in our heart, it's always there.
It's always,
Clouds
always
that need to
there.
pass.
And so is the I love that. I love thinking of the heart as a sun. That helps. Like in my meditations, I think of the clear mind as the blue sky, like the clear, objective, non-judgmental um, mind as the blue sky, and then the emotions and judgments as the clouds and rain and precipitation. And so you adding the sun as the heart, like this just like brought my meditation to the next level, and like made sense about what I've been like, what I'm feeling like this. Yeah. So
And
thank you.
when the clouds pass, in order for them to pass, there needs to be some wind, which basically means in the human body, as the sun and the clouds, breathe. Take deep breaths and blow it out so the clouds can pass. That's how it all passes. So nature has the answers for us. We just need to look at it and understand it and interpret. That's how I interpret it. Like,
It's everywhere. Nature, from the cyclical um, seasons to the phases of the moon to the sacred geometry and the flowers, all of the answers of how we can reorganize and recenter and regenerate exist within nature. And one of the things that you mentioned, I forgot. I forgot what I was gonna say. Sacred geometry took my mind to a whole different place. Oh, um, so one of my favorite things that on meditation, something that Marianne Williamson said, she said that meditation helps, meditation heals for this reason. It gives us a chance to withdraw from the chaos. And then, and she goes on to say, like, nature reorganizes itself when it's withdrawn from the chaos. So humans are nature. And actually, there have been studies showing imagery of the brain when it's on bliss, the emotion of bliss. And the brain on bliss creates sacred geometrical spirals. So that's actually, and that bliss, that's level 7, enlightenment, absolute passion. So those are the highest frequencies. So it makes sense that it would produce those sacred geometrical patterns. And so that's our nature. That's our true nature. So when we bring ourselves out of alignment with our true nature, the patterns get messy. They become chaotic.
yeah. And
And
especially for people that feel like there's a lot to do, like that was me. My everyday was I have so much to do. There's no time. I can't find time to meditate. I need to think about this. I need to do this, and it always like do, which helped me to uncover one of my values, which is productivity, which I was kind of ignoring, not being really aware of. And so, if anyone that is feeling that way, this is what I will say: you might benefit, like I have, from scheduling your procrastination days. My Friday is my procrastination day where I sit down and I do nothing but relax, meditate, and be with myself. So if something comes up during the week and I feel like I need to work on it, and I don't have time to work on it now, and I want to sit down and want to meditate and want to work through it, if I feel like I don't have time, it depends on the situation. Sometimes I'll sit down and I still kind of like in a way force myself to do it. But then I say to myself, okay, well, I have the procrastination schedule. So I will just put it on the list for Friday of as one of my intentions of what I want to work on. And then if I feel that way on Friday, I will work through it. And if not, maybe there was nothing to actually worry about. So instead of holding on to it and me feeling bad and experiencing level 1 or level 2 and getting angry at myself for not doing it, for not sitting down, I shifted to this procrastination day. And that way I have noticed that I actually get a lot more done having my Friday to myself. Because then throughout the week, I don't feel like I don't take care of myself and I don't focus on myself and I don't spend time on myself. I feel like I do because I have a whole entire day for myself. So I'm able to better focus on everything else that I'm doing. And it's like all of a sudden everything starts to make sense.
yeah. That's what happens. Like it's like there's got to be the catalyst for the fractal patterns to like I think of like when we become the centers for the peace and the calm, cool, collected centers, then everything kind of like organizes around us. I think of like a magnet, like when we were kids, we played with magnets and like sand or like what I think it was sand, but everything would kind of like come toward the magnet. I kind of think of that in terms of like fractal patterns, like when we like are the centered, calm, focus, like levels 5 through 7, everything around us just kind of like organizes itself into place because that is nature.
Yeah, it does. And I know what magnets you're talking about. It's like even the timer thing. That stuff inside is like a sand timer. I have those, and my kids broke it. And what I did to pick it up, I used a magnet to pick it all up, and I put it in the jar, in a mason jar, and I would put the magnet to it, and it would create different kind of patterns inside. And I'm like, ooh, this is cool, and let go, and it's gone, and then put it back again, and it's a different pattern, different design.
I just fell in love with you all over again. You're like, ooh, this is cool. That's you. Like, that is like the soul. Like, that is you, Like, that's Yana.
Yeah.
Oh, man. I'm grateful.
So the other thing that I wanted to kind of mention, because throughout our chat today, there's a couple of things that you said. I can't remember exactly what you said, but what triggered my memory in one of my meditations, I think it was this Friday just passed. I had this realization that it kind of like came to me in different pieces all at once within like a split second, and I had to try to understand what it is. But it's like the ant lives in a different world. The ant does not see the sun. It sees the grass, and to the ant, that is a big jungle. They live in a different world, and yet we live in the same world. The snail sees the world a different way. A cat sees the world a different way. A dog sees the world a different way. A bird sees the world a different way. And and yet they have and they understand it and they accept it. And what if from there it went to what if we are some kind of a germ that's living inside of somebody else's body, and we're just simply not aware that we are a germ and that we're living that life. We have
Yeah.
awareness of what life is about, and we might be the one germ that's in that body that is the most awakened one. And it made me think of like Rick and Morty in a way, because they travel different dimensions, different places, and they sometimes are germs.
Mm-hmm.
So like a lot of what ifs, and it's like it's kind of like our perception of the world. If we choose to see our world as we are the germs,
Mm-hmm.
how will we live our life?
Exactly. That's the next step from the what ifs, like the what ifs, and then okay, so what if? What would we do? What would we want to do about it? And I think is it Carl Sagan who said an organism at war with itself will uh oh, what's the I'll get back to it. I'll figure it out. But basically, here on planet Earth, we are an organism at war with itself.
Yes.
So if we were the germ inside someone else's body, yeah, we would be failing that body. Like the organisms within our own bodies all work they talk to each other, they communicate with each other.
And they don't know that they're that. They have a different understanding of what they are, what their life is about.
They just know like if our antibodies know we got to fight this invader. Right now we have a collective invader known as white supremacy, and I think that we are actually doing the same. Like our hearts are like, yo, we got to fight this invader. I think that's happening, and so which is causing us all to work together, just as our antibodies in our bodies work together. And so I love that analogy, and I love think because it's everything we experience on an individual level, a cellular level, going on at the macro level. So even thinking of us as a cell, like what if we're just a cell
Yeah.
and we all have different cell functions, and there's whoa, whoa,
Flying by your window.
huh?
Confirmation flying by your window.
That was a low flying red tail hawk. Bird, thanks hawk. Like it's like, yeah, work together.
Yeah.
Work together as one organism.
Yeah.
We can do it. We're doing it. We're doing it. Like we're having this heart opening expansion because wow, like the pandemic set the stage for a lot of parents a lot of people with privilege to be at home with their kids, which gave them empathy for their the kids' teachers, valuing the kids' teachers, and then hot on the trail is the race war we're experiencing, and parents seeing that, wow, I don't have to think about my kids' safety like this. Like realizing that a Black mother has to fear for her, like really, like the worry that goes on in the mind of a Black mother is very different from the worry that goes on in the mind of a white mother. So while, like going back to what you were saying about worry, um, I wrote down and put a box around it, imagination. So our imaginations are powerful, and what Yana was saying at the beginning, when it comes to worry, we choose what to do with our imagination. So worry exists in the imagination. We're coming up with scenarios that might or might not happen. We don't know. We're not there yet because that's in the future. We're here in the present. And we could use our imagination for different purposes. So like going back to what we were saying about stress and reacting in stress, like what if we use our imagination to imagine a world where chaos is going on, stress is going on, and our children are seeing us remain peaceful and calm and articulate and grounded and sure-footed and loving and compassionate, and instead of coming from a place of, like right now a lot of children are watching a whole world go, we're right, you're wrong, we're smart, you're stupid, what if instead they watch us say, we have different opinions, and I really want to know what your heart is like, what's heavy in your heart, what's behind these opinions. Let's get to know each other, and let's remain calm and compassionate. If we used our imaginations to think of that world, like, what would that be like if our children watch us care for the hearts of those who don't think like us, who exhibit behaviors that um, just are trend toward injustice and hiding truth. And if we approach it from a place of calm responsibility and compassion, and I forgot how I got started on this, but I think that's changing. And so going back to imagination, just like using our imagination to dream up of a more cohesive, higher frequency, more understanding, more harmonic world than just a bunch of stress, like levels 1 and 2 stress reactions. Because this is like what we're experiencing collectively, individually. It's a personal power struggle, and because the patriarchy has split us into inferiority and superiority. So something that happens, and before I say this, I just want to mention that the 7 levels of energy and the 7 chakras, 2 completely different systems. The 7 levels based in quantum physics. The chakras, I don't know enough about them to state what they're based in, but I enjoy both. I enjoy both modalities. And I have noticed that they do, the 7 levels of energy have given me a greater understanding of what's happening when I am experiencing an imbalance in the 3rd chakra, the solar plexus. The solar plexus is that drive for power. And when we're balanced, we're empowered. We're that like level 5 leader, calm, cool, collected. We speak our truth. If people don't like it, it doesn't shake us.
Mm-hmm.
We are heard. We know our voice matters. And then if there's an imbalance in level 3, the imbalance is coming from an imbalance of willpower. So it shows up as either an overexpression of willpower, such as level 2 energy, or an under expression of willpower, such as level 1 energy.
Mm-hmm.
So it is helpful. I have found it helpful to use the 2 systems, study them independently, and then combine them to realize, okay, if I'm at level 1, well, it could be a root chakra thing. I might not feel safe. But when it comes to other people and having my point heard, I think a lot of us are experiencing these solar plexus, well, root chakra and solar plexus imbalance in conversation, where it's more important to have our voices heard than it is to remain calm and compassionate.
Yeah, and listen.
And listen, yeah.
Yeah, because if we just pause and listen to somebody else, we might learn a thing or two.
And we might feel them. We might feel another person.
And that's the reason why people don't want to listen, because they don't want to feel somebody else. I have enough of myself to feel. Why should I be listening to you and feeling you? No. This is all about me. This is my world. This is my life. You are not allowed to be in here. Another confirmation flying by.
Yeah, I mean, the Bird Nation is like we heard you called on us.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's true. I mean, and now that empaths, like, there's been some collective boundary setting going on between among those who take on the emotions of the world. Like, we've been feeling deeply since we showed up on the scene, and we've been feeling it for the collective. We've been feeling it for everyone, and now we're setting some boundaries and advocating that others feel it too and help us carry the weight. And it's actually happening. Like, I've had conversations with people who, like, 4 years ago, could not listen to me speak about children in Yemen or Syria or Mexico or Black children the way that they talk about care for their own children. they couldn't hear me reflect like, look, all these children deserve the same amount of respect and opportunity, and empathy and compassion and care and concern. A child starving in Yemen deserves just as much concern as my very privileged niece. And just because my niece is my blood doesn't mean my love for all the children of the world is any less or less potent than my love for my niece. And I think more and more people are able, like, so I'm having conversations that I had 4 years ago about that kind of empathy, of like what empathy really means, and like, and you know, saying something like something going on, like a crisis in Syria, it might appear to be happening on another side of the world, but when you're an empath and your heart is expanded to the global population, it's happening in the heart. There's no escaping it. There's no numbing it. There's no distracting my way out of it. And I think more and more people are putting down the numbing agents and actually allowing it in, and realizing, oh, there's no escaping this depth of feeling that I actually feel for my co-humans, as we're all here on planet Earth together, and Mother Earth has more than enough resources for all of us. Why are we fighting? Why are we making up a paradigm where some people get like are more important than others, and why would superiority and inferiority exist? So I think more and more people are feeling empathy for what those limitations and old paradigm, like hierarchical structures, the kind of oppression and just like gut wrenching um, situations that it puts most people in. Like, this is most of the world that's struggling because of our inability to feel and connect deeply. And
Well, it's all about control.
yeah.
If we feel like we're being controlled, it becomes very difficult to feel and connect
Mm-hmm.
because there is a block. Control creates blocks. We can do the same thing with our children. We can create those blocks in our children by trying to control them.
Mm-hmm.
And by them growing up feeling like they need to be controlled because that's the only way to be and live. And they're not necessarily learning how to feel, be, and truly connect. So that control needs to go. Those setting boundaries, like you mentioned, boundaries need to be set. As an individual, we all have the power and the knowledge of what boundaries need to be set, where in our life, where you need to draw the line, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
Once you become aware of them, put them in place, whether it's with your friends, your family, your partner. You can't really do it with your pets because they don't really understand boundaries. So you don't want them in your lap, they're still going to go on your lap, right? Like my cat, he just came here, he was here. He stayed here until he was done and he went back upstairs.
I mean, that's beautiful. I enjoyed that. I took a screenshot of it. I took a screenshot of Ramsey's on your shoulder. So
He loves that. Honestly, like what he does, and this is where, again, animals don't understand boundaries. For example, I'm in the kitchen, I'm cleaning, I'm doing my thing, and I have my music playing. He knows when I have my music playing, I am at a different frequency, different vibration, and he loves it.
oh yeah.
He
Yep.
dance with me, and he comes to me and it's like meow, and his meow is really annoying on my leg. He doesn't really release his claws, but sometimes he can get stuck in my pants and it'll hurt. And his thing is, he's asking me to pick him up. I pick him up, and he literally, like you saw him, he sits there, and I'll do my dance, and I'll move around, and he just loves it, and he purrs, and he massages, and I'm like, you just want me. You want to steal my good energy.
You want to vibe with it and sharing it. It's
Yeah.
like home. Well, I think that, I mean, I've seen some cats that are ancient souls. So I think they remember what home felt like. Like, I think they were chilling with us on Lemuria, and they remember. And that's why they show up back in our lives and just remember that frequency. And, And I just want to get back to something you were saying about shit. I'm like in the cat world.
Well, the dogs are the same way. I think they show
Oh,
up.
about boundaries. If you need help setting boundaries, something that when like setting boundaries for the first time, when you recognize these patterns, first I recommend a process. I would begin the process by getting really clear on your core values and what they mean to you, because those are the principles by which you live. They drive you. They're who you are. So get really clear on who you are. Try to remember the times within your life when you either um, your actions aligned with those values, or maybe you deviated and your intuition knew you were deviating, and just reflect on that, get really clear on who you are. And then when you go out into the world, you're prepared to set boundaries because you'll feel that deviation. You're like, this is familiar. I've been here before. This time I have more options. So whereas the previous option were levels 1 or level 2, now we got all these levels 3 through 7. And if you need help, I when I first began setting boundaries, I leaned on my coach so hard. I had her like I would write emails and I would have her like emails I didn't know if I was gonna send or not, but emails like boundary setting emails to people in my life, and I would have her read them over um and make sure that it was coming, like she helped me come from love and not fear, which changes the whole language, because when you're coming from fear, especially like level 1 fear, that's basically being like, don't respect me, don't respect anything I'm putting out there. So having her help me shift so that my language was coming from love, that was putting out a completely different vibe of like, I am here, and I'm gonna be here a while, and you're gonna respect me. I respect myself, and if you don't respect me, uh, it's kind of like they know, like when you're presenting yourself with that upgraded energy, they know it's either something's gonna shift or they're gonna lose you. You're fine.
Mhm.
And because if they lose, then they weren't ready to be in your life in this like new and improved avatar that sets boundaries and is like, look, uh I've got work to do. And there's this example in my chakras for beginner books, chakras for beginners. I have been um revisiting this book for 4 years now, like any, like it's just so straightforward. And again, so something with level 4 energy that we experience, one of the disadvantages shows up as the imbalanced heart chakra. So this in this book, it's talking about the imbalanced heart chakra. It's saying, basically drawing from the spiritual source, is saying, when you are in right alignment, you will be replenished as you give to others of your fullness. When you feel exhaustion, go out into nature and drink in beauty. Draw the beauty into you and feel it. Remember, if you are going to give, you need to know how to replenish yourself. The personal is limited, the universal is not. What inspires you? Go and reconnect with your source. And then it goes on to say the nature of that imbalance. So imagine a friend that needed $5 every time he saw you. Can I borrow $5? I'm short $5. Can you cover me? Do you have an extra $5? Wouldn't you eventually tire of this friendship because of it constantly being a drain? So it is in love. When you identify the other person as the source of your needs, you become a drain on that person. Remember to stay connected to the sources that inspire you so that you are sharing something vital in the relationship. So that goes for any relationship and friendships, anything where it's not reciprocal. So I just thought I'd offer for anyone who has an excess or abundance of level 4 energy, beautiful energy. Just remember, if there are people around you asking for $5 every time they see you, you are entitled to set a boundary and be like, you might want to go create your own energy. Like, you know, like that person asking for the $5, they're not creating their own energy from the heart. They probably have not rooted. So that's something also important to understand. If the same people keep coming to you needing your level 4 energy or needing your $5, whatever that source is, the reason they keep coming back is because it's not taking root. Like we expect, we give love, it's going to take root, and then those people will be off and running. Everybody. If their pattern has been to rely on the energy of others and the love of others, the external validation of others, they're always in need of external validation of others, whatever the energy is, it's just not taking root.
Yeah.
It's important to keep in mind.
It reminded me the conversation that we had in the beginning of the child showing the parent that they are needed. Right? So it's kind of like those patterns sounds like they're continuing into adulthood, and we are replacing the parents with other people in our life so they can come and fix something that we think is broken, but it is not. And whatever is going on is just a sign. Your body's trying to tell you, your mind is trying to tell you something is off balance. You need to do something about it. Right? And then we're so quick to then jump to level 1 or level 2 and find that problem. But the problem we're looking at is usually external. And then we find ways of what to blame or who to blame for what's going on inside. But it's not outside, it's inside. So instead of pointing the finger at everyone else, realize and recognize that it's happening within you. It's like, you have your whole world going on. There's a different world inside of you. And there's a war going on inside of you. It's not caused externally. Yes, some of it might be triggered, but at the end of the day, you allowed the war to go on inside you because there was a button push and the war just happened. So working through that is what's going to help and allow all of us to heal one thing at a time, and then allowing yourself time and grace to actually heal and recover from that experience.
Yeah, time and grace, for real.
Yeah.
One thing at a time is enough.
Yeah.
Like, we're not, like, a lot of times I can speak globally and collectively, and that's not, like, that's just my own perception, and I just want to make sure it doesn't, anyone listening, it's not, like, placing an exaggerated sense of urgency to heal everything at once. That's not what this is for.
It's not.
One thing at a time is enough.
Yeah. And allowing yourself to digest that thing. It's like, I like to give examples because it makes it more tangible and more like, I'm just like, as a child, how I learned best in school is from stories or examples of real life. So this is what I like to do. This is my way of teaching and helping people to understand. Look at it as a plate of food. You can't eat it all, but you're going to eat something, and then you got to allow that food to digest, to go through your body in order for you to go back and eat the rest of the things on your plate. Or maybe even you want to add things to the plate. So allowing yourself the time to digest each meal that you have eaten, and then add the other meal. So these buttons, these things that are coming up that you're working through, it's a meal. It's a whole meal because there's a lot of different things that are on that plate, a lot of different attachments to this one thing. You might have found yourself in a conversation with someone and experience level 1 or level 2 because something they said has triggered it. So that is an opportunity to then work through it and uncover where it's coming from. There's a lot of things in that plate because that's a plate. That button, the trigger, is a plate. So once you have eaten that whole meal, what do you usually do? Because again, sometimes we overeat, which means that there's a lot of realizations. So we have major itis. You sit down and you're literally like couch ridden, and you need to allow that food to digest. So that's what can happen when we work through a big block. You need to allow your body to digest it. And it might take more than an hour, more than a day, more than a week. But give yourself the time, the grace, and allow yourself to do all of that. And then you go on to the next thing, to the next meal once it comes up for you.
And you'll have that set of tools.
Yes.
That's the key. Like you start out, my journey started out very small when it came to setting boundaries, like limiting my time around people who gossip. Like that was like a big thing for me, a big thing. And it took a lot of time and energy, and a lot of work with my coach, and a lot and um guilt for how I thought that those behaviors to win over the approval of the tribe, and then guilt for leaving the tribe and not continuing that relationship with the tribe. And so it takes a lot. So, and then over time, the tools I pick up along the way would expand. And with each new set of tools, the shadows that I face on the other end of the spectrum were expanded. And so it just like keeps going in this cyclical journey of hearing the call to heal something, or work with a coach, or just change something, like hearing the call to shift, hearing the call to do something. And then it starts out small, and then with each growth expansion, the call shifts and grows, and then the shadows we face grow until we get to the point where we just got all the tools. We see the next shadow and we're like, all right, I'm going in. And yeah, so just like one at a time, one block at a time.
And as you were saying shifts, all I heard was taking a shit. And it made me think of that food process, that in order for us to fully release, we need to go to the bathroom, take a shit, and flush it. That's
like,
give
it back to the earth. There's something that I love and just I think it's primarily in I don't know which belief system where I integrated this from, but just this like giving my demons to the earth for her to like drink up and bury. It's like similar thing. Just like shit them out, flush them. Mother Earth will swallow them up.
Exactly, and it knows what to do with them. So I kind of wanted to, because now we're getting close to the time to wrap it up. So I thought this would be a great point for both of us to kind of share and really quickly, I guess, discuss level 2 energies, as kind of like whatever comes to mind, where it comes from, what can trigger it, and how many people might be dealing with it.
Yeah. I mean, well, it's the average in the world, level 2 conflict. And I think in the like abstract collective, it comes from fear, fear when we're able to see that there's the other, it's like us and then the other. And so I think it comes from fear of the other, fear of being wrong, fear of lack of control. Level 2 is a quick way. I think we have learned level 2 as the quickest way to gain control over anything, because it is a scary, it's scary. It can be.
And how much control does one experience when they actually express level 2 by trying to gain the control?
Right. And I think originally, so like going back, when did we first need level 2? Maybe when we were living in a tribe and we'd come out of the cave and see a saber-toothed tiger, and depending on who we are, think like, shit, I gotta run or I'm gonna fuck this thing up. And so I think originally, and then like expanding beyond that, when I think of level 2 energy coming from my own bloodline of so like my nana's mother came here from Russia, and the motive, the level 2.
Sisters.
Yeah. So the motive for that, I think of, probably came from a level 2. Like level 2 is the fire that we need sometimes to make a change. So in that bloodline, the fire needed. So she was at level 1 in fear. Every Good Friday, Christian people would go around murdering Jewish people. And so she had Jewish daughters and a Jewish son. And or I don't know if the son was born yet. So she was fearing, and that like attitude was, it wasn't just on Good Friday. It was a kind of like consistent, like, let's murder Jewish people. And but on Good Friday, it would obviously result in a lot of anxiety and worry in level 1. And I think her level 2 got her to the point of, fuck this. She packed up her kids and went to America. So in that situation, level 2 is absolutely necessary.
Yes.
Um, it was either level 1, when everyone's probably gonna die, or level 2, we might die on the way there, we might die when we get there, who knows, but it's better than this.
Yeah.
It's gotta
Better than sitting there and waiting for something to happen on a Good Friday, which sounds more like a bad Friday.
Sounds like a real shit Friday, if you ask me.
That's not a Good Friday at all. Mm-hmm.
Bad time. I'm so see how far we've come, really though? Like, we've come far as humanity. Like,
Yeah.
I'm a Jewish kid who came, like, whose family came from Russia. You're Russian. We're talking, laughing about this shit now. But that doesn't change the fact that that was only a couple of generations ago, where that much level 1 and that much level 2 were enough to impact my DNA. So I think collectively, that's that's like where it comes from, is that initial fight or flight, and then it's passed down generation to generation, until we are now at a place where we've lost touch with our true sense of safety and security. So I think it comes from not feeling safe and secure.
Yeah, I'd also add that the way it's also passed down generation after generation is through TVs and all the stuff that we're watching, because the brain doesn't understand what we're seeing on TV is not real. It seizes as a real thing happening. So if you're watching a lot of war things, your brain will eventually tell you that the world you're living in is full of wars.
That's normal.
Right?
War is normal. Conflict is normal. I mean, and it has been. That's what it has been. Unless you're an ancient Lemurian soul and you're like, this isn't normal. Like, we remember harmony.
Yeah.
And
It's
we
like brainwashing in a way, like all the TV and all the stuff we watch, it brainwashes us and it allows us to believe that this is how the world is.
It's entertainment. I mean, there was Michael Moore made a documentary called 11/9 about the 2016 election, and the like president or whatever, CBS, the CBS TV station, was talking about, he's like, yeah, it might like screw over the country, but it's great for ratings, so I'm gonna keep it going. So he just kept putting Trump on. They all just kept putting Trump on TV, and like all the chaos on. So like the media keeps putting chaos on TV because we're addicted to it. We are hardwired to.
And that's the level 2 approach that they were having. And again, we know about level 2 is that it has its expiration date, and eventually it can, all like under stress, it can only work that way for so long. After a while it will fail. So if that's how they were approaching that television show, eventually it would have failed.
And it was oh yeah, I mean, it's failing. And so his mindset actually was level 3, because the mindset was it was more, I win. If you win too, cool, but either way I win. It wasn't like America had to lose. It was like, yes, probably it might destroy the country, it might destroy our society as we know it, but I win. So, but it wasn't necessarily like I have to win, so all of them have to lose, because it was like more like um a bit more one level, one quantum shift from level two, but it was based on let's flood our feedback loops. And that's why we want to be really careful about our energetic diets at this time, because we are just we're exchanging information so fast at the speed of light. And so our quantum field can shift in a moment just by what we're looking at and what we're receiving. So, and we are also creating our reality. Like what we perceive, the theories of quantum physics are that something exists because of the observer. Like the observer and the observee are not independent of each other. So it's basically like saying, if I turn and look the other way, my computer doesn't exist anymore. And it really doesn't. Like in my reality, it doesn't. So that's why in my reality, I don't watch the news. I find out what I need to know through friends and Instagram and where I do get it. But I don't watch the news, and my world is beautiful.
Yeah, I'm the same way. I stopped watching the news years ago. I stopped watching depressive shows years ago. Once in a while, I still do in a way, because I just feel drawn to it and I know I learn from it and I walk away with new awarenesses and new lessons. Um, but it's still a choice, and we can choose what we want to essentially brainwash ourselves with. Because whatever we focus on, whatever we have in front of us at all times, is what we're going to become. So, like I said, watching war shows, war movies, we're going to become that somehow, and it's going to affect us. I mean, I've even heard of people living with PTSD and not really aware of where it's coming from. And then at the root cause, they realize that it's all the stuff that they are watching and doing. Like even games, if you're constantly playing war games, it's gonna take a toll. And that's why my
Like
variety.
that's what worries me about like some of the podcasts that I know are super trendy, like murder podcasts and stuff. And it's just like, you don't
Yeah, because then what could that possibly do? There are
like
things that do.
I've noticed a correlation between someone listening to those podcasts and the amount of paranoia that's circulating in their brains. And it's not my place to make the connection for them, but I do, as an energy leadership index master practitioner. As practitioners, we do notice the energetic feedback someone is taking in, the energetic diet, and then what they're putting out, the vibe they're putting out, and there's a direct correlation.
Yeah.
So if someone's watching the news, and like, what are the chances if you're watching the news and it's just chaos and conflict? There are two reactions that I've noticed, and I just observed, and I have noticed that it comes out as either like, fuck you, that guy's an idiot, like anger. I know it's angry people yelling at the TV, like the TV, like yelling at the TV. What is that gonna do? That just sounds like another bad time. That doesn't sound like a good time. Or walking away from the TV, shaking and feeling helpless to make a difference. So what we're seeing here is that what's displayed on the mainstream media results in level 1 or 2 from the people observing it. I don't see anybody walking away from the news being like, well, I feel great. Who wants to get shit done? Like, let's unite. I'm not seeing any of that.
Neither am I, because that would mean that they gained energy. But when we watch that stuff, it drains energy and it escapes the body. It's like that $5 that you're talking about. You're giving $5 to that TV, whatever you're watching. Here you go, here you go, here you go. You're giving this energy out.
To a conglomerate. Like, all the media is pretty much run by the same people. So we're giving all of our energy to a conglomerate that has the attitude of, I don't care if it destroys the people, I want to make some money.
Greed, which is level 2.
Yep, yep, exactly.
Yeah.
And
And
control is level control. So yeah, so Yana is hitting on something cool. At every level of energy, there's the mindset of money. So at level 1, it's scarcity, which this indentured world of indentured servitude is self-perpetuating because it keeps the masses in scarcity. This is all by design. So we feel helpless to make a difference. So then we don't make a difference and we don't challenge the status quo, because why bite the hand that feeds, even though it's only feeding us just enough to get by? So level 1 is scarcity. Level 2 is greed. So the two catabolic levels. Level 3 is control. Like when you have money, you want to control it. You want to control. So even sometimes investing in someone, that could look like a higher level of energy. But if you got your paws in it and you want to control every aspect of it, it's still level 3. Level 4 is charity, generosity. You give donations freely, or energy, or if you can't donate money, you find some other way to help. And level 5 is investment or opportunity, primarily like in yourself, in homies. You begin investing in what you believe in. Level 6 is money is to be shared by all. Level 7 is money doesn't exist. None of this exists. It's all just energy.
yeah, it's all just energy. We can have any amount of money we want. It's all at our disposal. We just need to resonate at that level, type of thing.
And this is quite empowering, because if you think about it, and resonating at different levels, if you think about it, just objective, emotionally getting out of one scarcity, especially when it comes to money, is really hard. Objectively, we're just all we gotta do is expand beyond level 2, and we begin redirecting all that money out of the hands of those who are operating from greed. So it's not that the greedy people are smarter or more intelligent or wiser. No, they're not. And it's not that they're any happier, because when you're at level 2, you're not happy, you're paranoid. You're afraid someone's going to come and take your stuff, which is weird.
Or
So,
level 1 or level 3 even. A lot of people that are living at level 3, they're not really happy. Well, they might be happy, but they're not experiencing very much joy.
the
Because joy
moment, if someone's at level 3, the moment that they experience fear, the moment that the moment they lose control, they drop to level 2, and then it's attack, conflict, fight, war, battle.
yeah.
So that's a tough place to be. Like, that's a thin line to walk between level 3 control and level 2 like madness, breakdown of society. So it's not as daunting of a task to imagine how we might recirculate the wealth in the world, because we don't necessarily have to jump from level 1 to level 7. The first place, once we just understand that from a vibrational standpoint, the level 2 people who are hoarding all the wealth, the people who are at greed, aren't happy either. So it's not serving them to continue sending all this money and power toward them. And we do this through our unconscious actions, and just bringing some consciousness to our actions, and voting with our dollars, and just be more conscious. We get to begin that process, and investing in ourselves, investing in our friends. So yeah.
Yeah. And I would just say, basically, to just wrap it all up, the level 2, because we started talking about level 2, the things that can trigger it is greed, like we just said, worrying about money, the money stories. So worry, anger, control, doubt, shame, guilt, and it's expressed internally,
Resentment.
externally, which is viewed as conflict and I need to fight for myself or feel like I need to fight, but I can't find the words how to. And the things that people can do to help themselves to work through level two without realizing what they're doing is addictions is one of the biggest things that people can find themselves doing when they are in the lower levels. They tend to become addicted to something to help them cope with it, not actually dealing with the actual root cause problem. And so what else? So yeah. So they can express it and try to heal it and try to overcome it with addictions. I think Rachel sent a message. That's what she was doing, a little dance, a little pee-pee dance. Okay, got it. So what else can people do when it comes to working through, not necessarily working through, but trying to manage level one and level two, special level two, that's what we're talking about here. So they can try to manage it through expressing it outwardly, right? To getting it all out and dumping it on the other person, on the person that is receiving it. Sometimes it might not necessarily be a person. Sometimes they can express it on an item. So let's say watching TV or expressing it and releasing it all on their pet, loved one, which I already said. Sometimes just expressing it even at work, at people or even customers. Sometimes those that have worked or are working in the corporate world, or you're working at a job, you might have had a customer where they come in and they're angry and they're upset and they release it all on you and you're a complete stranger. So there's different ways of how people seem to find ways to coping with it instead of actually working through it. There are options that at level two, they tend to just put a band-aid on it, and blame others for their problems, outwardly or internally. And in the end, again, it's not dealing with the actual problem. It's like a doctor. When you go to a doctor, they give you a pill to help you feel better, but they're not actually trying to uncover and dissect and try to figure out where is it actually coming from. Because if they did, most of them will send you to the right place and it would not be meds. It would be inner work.
Mm-hmm. There's always something deeper below the triggers.
Yeah.
We all get triggered, and as we've been discussing, some of us express it from different ways, like fight or flight, or freeze or fawn. And so we are here to help whoever wants to work with us, and to evaluate, to recognize and evaluate and bring mindfulness and consciousness to those triggers, so that we have that moment to say, okay, I am safe, I am secure, this is an inappropriate reaction to something that deserves a conscious response. And it sounds simple, like saying it like that, it sounds simple. It takes a lot of practice.
Yes. And if someone who has a lot of level two energy and might not be aware of it, might have actually experienced anger while watching this,
Yes.
that would be evidence that you have a lot of level two energy. And it's not a good thing or it's not a bad thing.
It just is. It just is. It's just
is.
something to keep in mind. None of us alive today invented or designed the patterns that we're perpetuating. So we are not, there's no blame here. Blame is a level two behavior as well, a level two attitude. No other.
We blame ourselves already. We blame ourselves all the time already.
So yeah, and that's like at level one, we blame ourselves. At level two, we blame others and those around us and society. And so even peaceful warriors have a lot of level two when we blame the status quo, and which is an appropriate. I personally believe that blaming the status quo and the system for the discord and conflict is a more appropriate use of the energy of blame, as long as we're not applying it to other people. I think the harm comes when we start um, identifying other people with the patterns of society, because then we're forgetting that there's a soul in there who has also been fooled, or there's a soul in there who's still there, and then the human who has been fooled into perpetuating these patterns. So it's important to have compassion and grace for ourselves. We didn't. I think the most excruciating part of my journey was recognizing how I perpetuated patterns that harm me and harm my body, and I really had to take a lot of time to sit with myself and be like, you didn't design this, you didn't choose this. You like, when it's subconscious, we got to give ourselves a break. When it's subconscious, we just don't know. Like, we really, it's not in our conscious mind. So
Yes.
if we're subconsciously going along with the status quo because we haven't given ourselves that evaluatory process that Yana and I work with people through, of this is the pattern, and it's as simple as, how is this pattern serving you? And then it's a matter of choice of saying either not well, or yeah, I'm gonna continue doing this.
Mhm.
And so when we get to that point of saying it's not serving us, um, then also want to remember to make room for all the compassion, make room for all the, and hold ourselves with compassion, because sometimes what happens is, once we recognize that a pattern hasn't been serving us, then we recognize all the times in our lives we've perpetuated that pattern. And that's the, every human is on our own journey and are facing our own paths. So just like working with coach, we have the tools to help you to witness the patterns with objectively, and to be here for you as you witness them, and be like we love you unconditionally just as you are, and you're exactly where you're meant to be. and and the work we do gives you the tools, so that in your own time, like we're not gonna force you to go deep. I made that mistake with previous partners in relationships, where I could intuit the root cause, I could intuit the core wound, and I'd be like, this is what you need to fix. Like, you never faced this issue with your biological father, and that's why the XYZ. That's not the way to do it. And that's certainly not what we do as coaches. We help you practice with the tools. Like, it's like being a warrior. It's like training to be a warrior. It's like martial arts, but for the mind, so that the next time you are faced or confronted with a memory or somewhere where you weren't your highest self, you have all the tools to witness it, forgive yourself, find the value in it. The one of the biggest keys is finding the value in the deviation. And I believe that once you are able to do that, you are set on your journey. Once you're able to go through that pattern of like, this happened, and the value, like, for example, the grief I felt for not having been a better sister to a musician brother, and all the times in my life where I was joining the status quo and being like, just get a job. Like, we all have to get jobs. We all can't be creatives. Like, there's no room in society for that. So get a job. I have to get a job. And so, like, facing all those times in my life where I played that role was really hard for me to face. But thanks to coaching, I had the tools to understand on a logical, reasonable level. So there's two things going on here. My right brain, the emotional brain, there's grief, guilt, shame. How could I? In my left brain, thanks to working with a coach, I had the understanding that what my brain was doing was going to the past and beating myself up for things from the past, which was causing level 1. So my left logical brain could be like, okay, emotions, like, you file as long as you need to, and then we're going to derive the value from it. So then I was able to derive the value, like, what's going on here, this grief, like, what is it telling me? If this is like the most excruciating pain I've ever been in, why? And it's because of how far I deviated from my core value of creativity. So then I could ask myself, I could play the role of my own coach and say, well, what do you want to do about it? All you have is now. You are forgiven in every moment for every deviation, and now choose in the now. And that's what the coach does, is we help you choose in the now what to do moving forward. And that wasn't something, that shadow wasn't something that I worked with a coach. That was something that was so deep and so full of shame that it was important for me to face it in my own time. Although had I had a coach, probably would have been amazing too. I just at that time didn't feel it was necessary because I had the tools to go in there and cry it out. Like I needed to cry a lot, but I had all the tools to tell my right brain, like, it's gonna be okay. You're gonna experience emotions about this, and then we're gonna hold ourselves accountable for returning to the present, saying, look, no one's holding you. I think when we feel guilt and shame, we think that the world around us is remembering the things we're feeling guilt and shame for, and like holding us to it. And it's just us. It's just us holding us to it. So,
Yeah.
we can show up in the world. We can deal with that guilt and shame, and then show up in the world with having changed our behaviors and patterns, and then we create a new timeline, and then the world sees us as that person who we show up as from choice. Like when we show up from choice in the now, that's who the world then begins to acclimate around um that version of ourselves.
Yeah, because people are not going to remember what we did or who we were or what we really looked like a while ago, a year ago, a couple of years ago. They're going to remember the now, what was the most recent. So the thought also came from, there's a lot of people that want to do videos, for example, and they're scared to do a video because people are going to remember my very first video and they're going to look at it and they're going to judge me, my future self, based on my very first video. People are not going to remember that. They're
No,
not.
it's information. Like, no, we are so like saturated in information and videos. Like, I don't even go. Yeah, I don't even go look at videos. Like, I'll take a video outside, and then like the next day, I don't even go back and look at my own videos of like nature. Like we're on to the next. Like the rest of individually, internally, we're still in the like old thought, the memory, but everyone around us has already moved on, and we're sitting here thinking like, oh my god, I can't believe I said that in that first video. Like nobody cares.
Yeah, nobody.
Let the like
It makes you feel
let
better
the
about yourself,
freedom,
probably. Anyways.
like in the same way that like just mindset can create how we feel. That, have you seen that meme that's like nobody cares and it's like a sad face, and then it's like nobody cares and it's a happy face? It's like, use that nobody cares happy face. Like nobody cares, we can do whatever the fuck we want, we can say whatever the fuck we want, just like be kind, speak from the heart, you'll be fine. I mean, it's not like,
Made me think of like level 1, nobody cares, and level 5, nobody cares.
yeah, what an opportunity, nobody gives a shit. Everybody's so distracted. This is the time. Everyone is so distracted. I don't think there's ever been a humanity more distracted than the humanity we're currently living. So while everybody's distracted, we've got all the time in the world to build in the now, like moment by moment. Who do we want to be? What do we want? How do we want to show up? Like, it's not like with all the shit going on in the world, my musician brother's like, 10 years ago, you told me to get a job and that ruined my life. Like, that's not, he's fine. We're all fine. Like, like he's moved on. Like, how many other people have said other things to other people. I mean, especially for empaths, chances are whatever we've said to people that we think that we're beating ourselves up over, whatever we think like hurt them, chances are they've healed, because there's only such like a degree of harshness that comes out of an empath's mouth. And like there's a limited amount of damage. Like if you like really think about it, like there's a limited amount of damage that an empath can really do.
It still comes from a good, positive place in the way.
Yeah, like I was telling when I was at Chris's, I was having I like spiraled into shame and self-doubt because in the morning the other day he like got up and was like doing stuff and was being productive, and I was experiencing paralysis by analysis, and then I went into a shame spiral of having his, like, a mirror of someone being all productive in my face and I wasn't doing anything. And then I went into a shame spiral and was like, I hadn't been doing my plays for the 2 weeks that I was there, and I fell out of my routine, and it was all my fault, and I was just like having this spiral. And he was just like very kind and just like watching me go through it. And it was we got, like, when we like arrived at a place where I was like, in level 1, and I didn't want to I was like, there's no point in talking about it. And I've never, like, it's new. I'm paying a coach. It's also, or the covenant, it's new to have someone like care about why I'm being so quiet all of a sudden. And so we were able to talk about it and arrive at the place of, like, all right, the value, like, first of all, it's valuable that I experienced that shame cycle, because I know how quickly the thought of look at him being productive, shit, what am I doing? I've done nothing with myself. I hate how quickly that could spiral out of control. Like, I've done nothing. I haven't done a plank. Like, oh my God, I'm never gonna do them again. I'm never gonna be productive. And just like out of control.
Yeah, it sounds like you were doing a lot of comparison of look at what he's doing. He's so perfect. And me, I'm the opposite of perfect in comparison to. But if it was just you, the experience would have been different. That would not have been there.
If I didn't have a mirror, which is what relationships are, they're mirrors, and what I was actually seeing was something I admired, which is, let's
Yeah.
get up, let's do this, let's listen to a podcast, let's like get shit done on like watching him like getting shit done on his computer, like emails and stuff, like all the things that I've been avoiding for like 3 years.
I know, me too. I gotta get into it because for on my end, shit is getting real quickly. I can tell you more about like what I'm doing, but there's a lot that is on. I'm like my heart is starting to really warm up with excitement and at the same time, but there's a lot on my plate of what the things that I'm doing. I'm so close. Like I'm one debrief away of getting my ELI. Which is happening tomorrow. I already have really good ELIs because the very first one I did, the way I wanted to do was go in completely like with no really getting ready for it, just a little bit, go in and fail miserably. So that way I could not do it worse than that. Because I got my fear out of the way. That's how I've been approaching things. I'm scared of something, just go and fail. Do a really like have the goal as do a really shitty job. That way, I cannot do it worse than that. So there's a lot of things that I have planned out that I'm going to be doing, and there a lot of speed is involved in that because it needs to be done fast. And yeah, it's scary, but I don't even know like what triggered that reaction for me. Something
Because we were talking about like the things we avoided in terms of like more like business logistics, like I've like avoiding that aspect of building business, like the more just like left brain oriented. You actually have to check your emails because like I don't check my emails, and so like all this kind of stuff that I was like seeing mirrored from a male who like he like has his men's group and he has his like Sunday night coaching group, like his mastermind call, and I'm like watching him doing things like sending an email to the group and like preparing an assignment, and I'm like, oh, I'm shit, I haven't done anything, and I've had all these years of like and he's just like a man, so he like learns and then just does it. And because like I think part of how women have been programmed is that we have to be like we think that we have to be the experts on something. We'll study something for like 11 years before feeling like it's time to offer it through our own flavor, frequency, or whatever it is that we're creating through what we've been studying. And so like
Yes.
seeing that mirror in my face and being like, why is he so confident and why am I so scared? Like, why is he able to sit down at his computer in the morning and just like tackle this shit, and why do I in the morning want to like go off into my dreamscape with like weed and cacao and never return?
Did you
So
ask him why? Because he might have a really good reason, because there is fire and there's passion in that. So what's in that that's creating
well,
that?
we actually spent a lot of time talking about this because there are differences between men and women, and like men reset daily. They have their cyclical patterns, but like biologically they reset every time they go to sleep, whereas women, we reset monthly. So
Yeah, it
um,
means we're carrying a month worth of stuff. And if we don't learn how to let go of the previous month, we might carry that into the following month.
yeah. So we just talked about that. We talked about like my patterns and like look what looks like productivity and success for a man based on their schedules might not be productivity for a woman based on if like that morning I was feeling called to like smoke journey into a shamanic realm. Like maybe that's like my prerogative as a woman who is biologically programmed to connect more to the spirit realm, and also as an empath who feels so deep into the universe. So if I'm feeling like that morning I was struggling to differentiate between collective emotion and my own emotion, and um like in that situation I couldn't tell what was there, what was like what I was feeling in that space and time versus what I've been feeling through the chaos. And so we talked a lot about like how it's just like so different, and like his um something he mentioned, he's like single pointed focus, so his brain will focus on one thing at a time. So if his brain is like, I'm going to send this email out to my group, he will sit there, type up an email and send it out to his group. I'm all feeling, so it's different. It's about like I've got to somehow, I am not I've got to I am integrating the feeling into action, which is different for a woman. There's different sets of karmic journeys. Different sets of patterns we have to break through. I have to break through the not good enough. Well, no one wants to hear it. No one wants to listen to me.
Yeah.
Patterns. And so I do think it all comes like he's confident. He believes in what he's doing. And um, so I think for me, it just comes from that place of confidence of being like, if this dude really is my mirror, then I am also called to feel confident in what I'm doing and to sit down. If I see him, like we're attracted to what we admire, and that's why relationships exist. And we also resist in others what we resist within, which is also why relationships exist, to hold up that mirror. So if I'm looking at a mirror of what I admire and it's like this dude just gets shit done, like as we talk about, dudes get shit done, they get shit done, like it's undeniable. And that's what I'm admiring, that's what I'm attracted to. He's not gonna do my work for me. He's not gonna like sit there and babysit me and be like, who's your ideal client, what do you want, and like, but he can lead by example.
Mhm.
So there's a lot going on there. But I did have like this serious shame spiral because of like having that mirror, and it's like something that was important to me to keep in mind is like as much as we reflect similar like-mindedness and beliefs and core values, like we might reflect our core values to each other, but there is still a difference between men and women right now, and like the way that our programming is. So it was helpful to reflect on that and be like, I can't hold myself up to anyone else's standards. Like he got up, had a cup of coffee and started doing shit, and it's my role to be happy for him and celebrate that there's a human out there like getting their shit together and doing this, and like, and for me to spiral out of control making it about me was narcissistic, because like just there like, yo, you're doing awesome. No, I got all narcissistic and was like making it in my head. Like narcissism can show up as level 1. And so I was getting in my head and making it about me and where I was failing. So it
I've,
was
I've gone through similar patterns by looking at my husband and seeing how productive he is, and especially how he was when I was in my deep resting stage, as I like to refer to it, where he was doing a lot more than I was because I wasn't capable. I wasn't able. I was capable, but I didn't believe I was. And my body wasn't listening. It wasn't really mine. I was borrowing it almost. So I definitely understand that part. And I love how you guys were able to talk about it because that says a lot about a relationship, and in a way of people being conscious and self-aware, which I wasn't, and neither was my partner. This is something that we learn over years. And when you were talking about productivity, I had this image in my mind. I don't know if I've seen it before or if it's just something that I imagined, but it's like it's almost like sometimes I see it as like a meme in a way, right? So productivity looks different to everyone. So there's like an image of a person on a computer typing away, and then the other side is a monk sitting there and meditating. That's being productive for both people. So figuring out what productivity means to you and what it looks like and feels like to you, and follow it. Don't try to compare yourself to others and see somebody else doing the computer stuff and seeing that as being productive. Might not be for you. For you, it might be having your circle with women. That is hugely productive. No need to send emails to remind them because they know where it's at. They want to be there, they're there. So that is already a huge productivity.
where the emotion is, like what I found really revealing is where my emotion was, like, and what that revealed to me. So like watching him moving forward, doing things that I want to do. So that's where like the real information was. Like he's moving forward, building his podcast and his like mastermind group and all these things. So the reason that I was experiencing emotion of that was because I'm watching him doing things that I've been like fantasizing about doing for years, and it just like hasn't been my time yet. So it's important to keep in mind that the process of getting there, like what I was witnessing was his process of getting there, which is very like left brain, task oriented, like list plans, like strategy. And what you're saying, like maybe being on a coven call with my sisters, that's my productivity. It's just a different process, and it doesn't mean my process. Like, who knows? There could be a podcast building somehow, some way that I'm not.
Yeah.
Exactly. And so it might not look like that. And having these conversations with a male who understands feminine energy is actually super helpful because um he reminds, like throughout the 2 weeks of living together through this quarantine time, he kept reminding me that, oh, this is how it started. Oh, right, okay. I felt like this is why I got started on this. After going through that, already going through a shame spiral, then I felt like, oh fuck, I just like, it was like half an hour of like this, and then I thought I ruined the whole day. And then I was like, nope, that's it, day's ruined, I ruined it, because I couldn't, because when I'm there I can't imagine changing my mood. It seems impossible. I'm like, that's it, I'm here now, it's gonna be this. It was like the morning, and I was like, yeah, I'm just, until I go to bed and wake up a new person. But like I ruined, and I was like, I ruined it, I ruined the day. And he was like, what are you talking about? And then I was explaining I was like, I think just like as an empath, a people pleaser, the way I perceive my energetic impact and influence on the world is almost like I keep count, like I have a barometer, and I like keep count of like, okay, I'm putting like love and light out there, okay, and then when I like contract and experience catabolic energy, experience shame and guilt and like um therefore creating the opposite patterns, is almost like I like create this net value for myself. And when there's like this gross value, that the gross like energetic output and that I put out there, and then when I experience those dips, I subtract it from myself, and I'm like, oh, the net value, now you just like gotta deduct that slip. And so that's what I was expressing to him throughout, and that's what got me thinking about it, is just like talking about empaths, and like chances are, like when we think that we're being um like drains or mean people or mean spirited, um not. Like it's probably not as harmful as we think it is. So like that deducting points for myself for having experienced a shame cycle and having experienced emotions and being like, I just brought someone else down, um probably not as impactful or as much of a like event as in my head I made it out to be, because like secretly there's still that people pleaser that's like, how dare I detract from the energy or the vibe of a room, like how dare I need it, how dare I experience my own insecurity and then demand someone else's attention to heal it. And so yeah, so I was just thinking about that in terms of like self-forgiveness, and just being like, you know what, like when we face that kind of shit, like when we face where we've been depending on other people's energy to make us feel better, chances are it's not as impactful or eventful as in our heads we make it out to be.
Mm. Yeah, they have a different, they also have a different story playing and different understanding and perception of what's going on. And it's either they can, the individual can make assumptions or interpret a situation a certain way, or have a human heart to heart conversation, which sounds like you guys did, and actually get to the root cause and help to move past it.
Exactly. And who am I to judge what the event even was like? And so the event that I'm referring to is this like conversation that took place where I thought that I was draining the energy of the whole day, and that would be judging his experience as not a pleasant one. Whereas who knows, maybe in his experience he was like, I get to be helpful, and maybe he was having a great time being helpful, because like it's two people who love helping people and love being of service. So for me to allow someone else to be of service and like um be there, without paying them, just like, I could just be, you can just be there for me, without feeling indebted. And part of what trauma does, like what I learned from healing my PTSD from my previous relationship, was what that psychological damage had done for a while is it made me feel indebted to anyone who cared. If someone cared about my psyche, I felt indebted to them. Or if they offered friendship, I felt indebted because I didn't feel like I had anything to offer.
Mm-hmm.
um so it made situations like that, like that's why it would be my go-to to withdraw and be silent, and like I was sitting there just like saying nothing, just staring off into space. I wouldn't look, I didn't want to make eye contact, and because I was like afraid if I made eye contact he would see what was going on in my brain, and and it'd be just like, I hate myself, I hate myself right now. And so it was just like a whole, yeah, it was just like a very interesting psychological event that could have, there could have been any number of timelines that it played out. I could have picked my stuff up and gone to a different room, which was like a former version of myself would have just like withdrawn physically as well. So it was new for me to like sit there and be like, I think I need to work through this. Very
Yeah.
uncomfortable for me. I don't like working, like when I'm in that place, I want to be like, all right, I'll see you tomorrow.
Running.
Let me, I don't want to get, I don't want to be made to feel better. Like when I'm in a place, I want to sit there feeling like shit because I think I deserve to sit there and feel like shit.
Mhm. But you don't. Nobody deserves that. So instead of sulking and absorbing all the bacteria in that swamp, as I like to refer to it, we do have a choice. And we can choose to get up and move and change the scenery, or speak up, or change the music that's playing in our mind, change the tune, change the words, or go within and figure out what is it that's happening, why, and then okay, so this is why, and then learn from it and move on and apply the new concepts that you have come up with, that we come up with.
Going in and recognizing this is why, like, I was able to articulate just now what my internal experience was. Initially, it was not an internal, like initially, like where I realized like, oh, I need to like work through something here, was because I was making it about him and was like self-righteous, and like I thought this morning was gonna go one way. Like like what set it all off was like I had these expectations of how this morning was gonna go, and this is not how it's going. And like, so that's like, while just now I was able to articulate it and make it about myself. The initial reaction was was like aimed. He doesn't know this, but internally, before I sorted it out and was like, this is about me, this has nothing to do with him. The initial reaction was aimed at him for being like, oh, let's like, I forget what we're gonna do, but then he got like engaged in what he was working on. So I was like sitting there like, I don't switch that easily. If I had like whatever we're gonna, I think we're gonna listen something like listen to a podcast or something, or record a podcast. I had my expectations set, and then it was that shift between, it was like the expectations were here, the reality, and this is not to say like one was better or worse than, just different. I'll make them so they're not, it's like expectations are here, reality was here, and then there's this gap, and in that gap between my expectations and reality,
But it's just one.
Okay, well, clean it up, please. Spill
I
water over himself.
I experienced this first, this internal like, it's his fault because he changed it up on me without being like, oh, we're not gonna listen to a podcast. I just got super involved in this. And so I had I reacted, had I, if I were a different, I could see being like an Aries, or like someone fiery and being like losing my mind and be like, you said we were gonna do this and now you're doing this, and what am I supposed to do? But I did have that stress reaction when my reality didn't meet my expectations, and then I was like, this is like, why would I ever point my finger at someone that I care about and make them feel anything other than happy that they're being productive. They're like, So I had to go through all that. I'm like, this is about me.
Yeah.
And then I was able to hold that mirror up to myself and figure out how much of it was about me and my own insecurities when it comes to productivity. It's always like, for the past 3 years, that word productivity always been a thing for me, that I've, like, you've coached me through it. Like, like, it's tough. So I did have like this internal reaction of wanting to like fuck up his day first, and then
You know what? As you're talking, it made me think like how you and I view productivity and what level our productivity is expressed at.
Yeah.
What level his productivity is expressed at, because his productivity seems to be expressed at level 6 and 7.
Mhm.
Whereas, for example, for me, lately it's more like 5 and 6. But before that, it was like level 1, level 2, and level 3, level 4 at best of ever, really. But experiencing productivity at that level doesn't feel good. There's no passion in there.
Right. It's missing passion.
But for him, there's pure passion in there, and it sounds like you woke up and it's like, what the fuck? How dare you experience pure passion doing these things that I wish I could do in the same level? And I'm
Like watching someone take passion and put it in like the physical world, because so much of my passion is experienced in my visions and my journey, my imagination, my experience in music, and this talking on Zoom. And so like there are things that it's on me to remember, that this conversation with you, our Monday conversations, that's productivity, and the meetings of the coven, that's productivity. So I just have to remember, like, just because I don't have a website, I don't have a newsletter, I don't have a mastermind group, I don't have a podcast with my name on it, I don't have all these things, doesn't
not,
mean not yet.
productivity looks different right now, like you said. I also started seeing this a while ago as productivity, and this being the most, this to me is the biggest productive time of the week, as I would like to refer to it, because we're putting so much stuff, so much heart and soul into this. And people that are watching it, they get to take away whatever it is that they want to take away from it.
Mm.
There's a lot in here, a lot of productivity that we both express.
Even if just one person is like, oh shit, I do that too, then we've done our job.
That's right. Even if a person watches half of it and they take away what they need to take away from it, that's all they could possibly need from it. Then they can take and run with it and go do something with it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And these things, and this is also part of why I wanted to share that shame spiral that I took myself down. I was fully aware, like becoming aware and bringing to the conscious mind those subconscious patterns. And like I consider myself a master of the 7 energy levels. I know how to tap into any of them at will. So I was fully aware that the level 1 meltdown I was having was totally within my control. It doesn't feel like it is at the time, and at the time I was like, "Well, I'm never getting out of this one." But I could at the same time witness myself saying those things in my head, and just be like, "If this is where you want to be, that's fine. Let's." And have like my higher self present to be like, let's not make it last all day. Maybe just another 10 minutes. And so I'm just offering that as you can get to the point of mastering all the energy levels and still choose to experience the shame and guilt, and sometimes not even know why. Like, again, depending on how sensitive we are, how finely tuned we are to the cosmic energy of the universe, we don't always know what's going to cause those levels 1 and 2. But the more we master working with all 7 energy levels, the more we can see ourselves there. Be like, that's okay. If you want to be there, that's okay. Like, experience it. It's part of our right as a human. If I want to feel sorry for myself and like sit there being like, I hate myself because I don't like using my computer, like, that's fine. I can sit there and like tell that story until I get to the point of like what's really, the opportunity of what's being presented here. I admire this man because he will get on his computer and make up assignments and do the things that I will daydream about. I'll daydream about for my clients. I'll like the new client that I'm working with, like I have all these fantasies in my head of assignments I want to create for her. And so having that mirror of like someone actually doing it and having um this like mental like this like I felt like a robot being like, does not compete. Like, how does this person do this? Like, I have all this intuition. And, but to me, it's also part of that's recognizing that because women, like, I think women are more complicated. We have a lot going on because we're feeling so deeply. So we're intuiting. So whereas maybe Chris, while he does feel deeply, he's also like thinking really methodically throughout the day and like strategically and logically. I just don't naturally, like, my thought process is more just like based in feeling and intuition.
Mhm.
So if someone's naturally thinking like natural mindset is already like more logic based, then the integration from vision into action might be a little more straightforward. Whereas for women, if we're trying to integrate intuition and heart into action, the path might be a little bit more complicated, and that's okay. Because it's like taking it, like for me to do what he's doing to me, and why it resulted in that paralysis and shame spiral is because he gets an idea and he acts on it, and it's a continuous flow. For me, it feels like pouring an ocean through a straw because of the access to the intuition, because how deep into my client's journey I could see, like, I could see her 16 weeks from now. So to like pedal it back, like he's going week to week, like this week we're talking about water, next week we're talking about fire, and he's just like thinking that way. And I'm seeing like the end goal, and like trying, and like my intuition is off the charts for her, and I could see, I'm like, oh my god, she's a clairaudient empath. She like, and I'm just like getting all like jazzed on her kinetic energy and her potential that's like ready to burst. So because I could see that all, like I'm ready to burst. So to take that and put it into like a Word doc is more complicated for me than it might be for someone else who's not perceiving that like so far ahead.
Yeah, you've seen Tangled, right?
Tangled?
Tangled, yeah. How there's a horse and then there's a chameleon. So as you're talking, I've seen the man as the horse that has the blinders and they're able to focus and see what's in front of them and get it done.
Yes.
And the female is the chameleon sitting on top with the eyes spinning around everywhere. Right? And the eyes have a really difficult time focusing on one thing.
Yes. Oh my god.
Front, back, and everywhere and spinning. So the female is almost like that chameleon with the eyes everywhere. And the male is the horse who focuses and get things done.
You just one thing at a time. Exactly. That's it.
And
Cool pants.
You got to put it in the dryer, okay, sweetie?
yes,
Please stop spilling water on yourself just because I didn't address it. Doesn't mean you got to keep going, taking the water and pouring it on himself.
it's so much fun. Water
Okay, you can go play in the pool. Ethan, please don't put any more water on the couch because it's going to end up underneath the couch.
on the floor.
Don't put water on the floor.
Not the floor, on the blanket, on the carpet.
Don't put water on the carpet or on the floor. Okay, I'm going to have to go and deal with that now.
Yeah, I was with him for a second there when he's like, but it's fun. But I.
And then afterwards, it's like, okay, well, this is we as parents going to like have a conversation and get at the same level and explain why it's not okay, what could happen, the repercussions, so they still understand how to be a decent human being as they grow up.
Yeah, and it's just like, it's not gonna be fun when the couch and the floor are destroyed and you don't have a floor. So
Yeah, and this is hardwood floors and it's gonna go up, get absorbed, and yeah. So anyways, and I guess it's a perfect time to wrap this up. Say this was a very deep, heart, soul conversation that you and I had, and everybody else got to witness.
yeah, we went deep. So thank you, everyone. Thank you for, you opened it up with vulnerability, and I have mad respect for that. I have mad respect for you. I just want you to know, like, I know we talked a lot before we started recording, but I just want you to know you are my sister, and I got you. Like, I am here, like, I will carry the torch if you ever need, and like I got you, I got your back. So thank you for opening it up with that. I feel it, I feel it. So thank you for opening it up with that vulnerability, and know like I see you and I feel you and I'm here if you ever need to talk about it. Anyone else ever need to talk about their shit, we're here.
Yeah.
We're all like, we might have differences of opinions, but at the end of the day we all feel the same spectrum of emotions, from shame, guilt to euphoria, peace. So well, so deep one.
Yeah. Deep breath and out. And I would just say the same thing, because I will also hold my torch for you, and I'm here for you anything you ever need. And I do feel you and understand you, and I get where you were, and I can see like the little journey that you went on in that relationship, because relationships are not easy and they're not hard. They're experiences, and you were just experiencing you as a human and him as a human, and the humans in comparison to one another, which again is taught behavior.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Why we're here.
Yeah.
This is why we're here. Get to know each other. We're here to just get to know each other as well as we can. So thank you for getting to know everyone who's watching, who made it this far.
Yeah, and thank you to everyone that is watching and continues to watch us over and over. The whole videos or half videos, however you watch it, or watch it now, later, however, right? No judgment. You do you, and we do us. That's it. He's like, oh, Mom, come deal with me now.
Okay. Yep.
I'm going to enjoy it. Okay, bye. Bye, everyone. Thanks for watching.
Bye. Thank you, everyone.
Yes, until next week. Bye.